Outlast is my favorite horror game franchise, hands down. Nothing compares in my eyes. But one thing I've never done with Outlast is go through the lore myself. I've never collected all the documents, I've never read all the documents, I've never collected all of the notes, I've never read all of the notes, I've never watched all the recordings, none of it. So today, using as few external sources as I can, I want to go and see how I would put together the Outlast lore on my own. I want to see if I played through the games, read all of the documents, read all the notes, watched all the recordings, how I would put the lore together. And that's what I'm going to be doing today. I have played through every single game, collected every single document, every single note, and the recordings, and I'm just going to go over what I think the game is about based off of that. And that's it. If I get anything wrong throughout the video, let me know about it in the comments. And if you liked the video, consider liking and subscribing, and I'll be able to do more of this stuff in the future. And with all of that out of the way, I hope you enjoy. After contemplating your life choices that led you to this moment, and with absolutely zero, and I mean zero option of turning back other than turning on the truck and leaving, you reach over into the seat next to you and grab a document. The document reads, September 17th, 2013, 2 Miles Upshar. You don't know me? Have to make this quick. They might be monitoring. I did 2 weeks of software consulting at Murkoff Psychiatric Systems facility in Mount Massive. All sorts of NDAs I'm very much breaking right now. But seriously, fuck those guys. Terrible things happening there. Don't understand it. Don't believe half of the things I saw. Doctors talking about dream therapy going too deep. Finding something that has been waiting for them in the mountains. People are being hurt and Murkoff is making money. It needs to be exposed. You then proceed to reach over and grab some batteries in your camcorder, which you'll be using throughout the game and throughout most of the games in the Outlast series to record all the events that happen. This is essentially your only lifeline. You can't fight back with it, but it allows you to see in the dark. After deciding that this place ain't shit and walking through the gate, you take a recording of the front of Mount Massive and then jot down a note. The note reads, I started feeling sick just looking at this place. Mount Massive Asylum, shut down amid scandal and government secrecy in 1971. Reopened by Murkoff Psychiatric Systems in 2009. Under the guise of a charitable organization, cell phone reception cut off abruptly a mile out, more like a jammer than lost signal. The Murkoff Corporation has a long track record of disguising profit as charity, but never on American soil. Whatever they thought they could get out of this place has to be big. Might finally be the story that breaks the bastards. Throughout the game, we'll find more documents and jot down more notes. The notes more or less serve as an inner monologue of Miles Upshar as he goes through Mount Massive Asylum. The documents give you more details about the location and the lore associated with it. Before we continue on, we'll take a look at the note and the previous document that we've already discovered. Essentially, from the first document, we read about a tip from a currently unknown person who worked at Murkoff facilities for 2 weeks. They mention how there's tons of security, tons of NDAs, terrible things going on, and that Murkoff's making money off of it. And for that reason alone, without deciding to bring a single other person with us who could help us, or even law enforcement, we just go there alone, like a smart, rational human being would. From the note, we find out a little bit more about Mount Massive Asylum and Murkoff, the fact that the asylum closed down in 1971 and then Murkoff reopened it in 2009, the fact that Murkoff had never done any of their experiments on American soil, and the fact that his cell phone reception was cut out from what was more than likely a jammer as opposed to signal loss, which mixed that with the fact that he feels sick just looking at this place should have been enough for him to hop back in his car, leave, and grab a friend or law enforcement to bring here with him instead of going into a huge asylum run by a greedy corporation that's very sketchy and known to be doing horrible atrocities alone. Despite the fact that Miles states that this place is starting to make him feel sick just looking at it, he doesn't have any options to leave, so like a normal, rational human being, when every door is locked, he goes and finds a window to climb into to get into the scary asylum. A couple rooms later, we come across a document titled Murkoff Psychiatric Systems Project Walrider. We are told that the note is about case number 174 and that the patient's initials are WPH, but they refer to him as Billy for some reason. Patient claims to have progressed to self-directed lucid dream states. Morphogenic engine activity observed at unprecedented scale, continuing stage 4 hormone schedule. Spirometry revealed no bronchial accumulations. A spirometry test is essentially just a test to check how well your lungs are working, and also checks for lung conditions like asthma, COPD, chronic bronchitis, and other things. Hematocrit centrifuge again failed to separate erythrocytes. A hematocrit test is a test that measures the proportions of red blood cells in the blood. A centrifuge is essentially a device that will split up the components of fluids. And an erythrocyte is just a red blood cell. And putting all of that information together, you get an idea of what kind of test that is. Highly worrisome. MRI reveals arrhythmic REM and REM cycles, laughter in the NREM state. Interview notes. Billy asked about the status of his mother's lawsuit against Murkoff in the asylum. This represents a catastrophic breach in security despite Billy's claims that he discovered the truth in, quote, the blood dreams of Dr. Traeger. Note the only Traeger on company records, one Richard Traeger, is an executive MRD. All orderlies and security personnel must be questioned and video security improved to include analytical biometrics. Murkoff Psychiatric Systems Project Walrider. MRD is referred to as Murkoff's Research and Development Branch. It's the branch that directs the scientific projects that Murkoff takes on, essentially. Richard Traeger, however, is an entity that we'll come across later in the game, and I'll talk about him more when we get there. After reading about the experimentations done on Billy, we decide that it's a good idea to press onward, climb through a vent, drop down on the other side, see that our hallway's blocked off, and in an act that defies every rule of self-preservation, we walk through the room that features hanging bodies, heads on bookshelves, and a man skewered through his chest.
Killed us. You got out. The variants. You can't fight them. You have to hide. You can unlock the main doors from security and control. You have to get the fuck out of this terrible place.
After recording the man dying, instead of helping him in any way, shape, or form, he tells us that we should get out of here. Very observant of him. He also tells us something about variants, which we'll come across later in the game. But instead of listening to what this man had to say, we decided to jot down a note, because this place ain't shit, and we don't have to do anything that this man says, cause he's dead now. The note states, I'm inside, bodies everywhere, blood, burn marks, heads lined up like bottles behind a bar, dead Murkoff scientists hung from the ceiling, their badges say Murkoff Advanced Research Systems. Murkoff's longtime MO has been to profit off the exploitation of supposed charity. Fuck the third world and bankroll another billion. How did Murkoff think they would make money off of a building full of crazy people? There's some kind of tactical cop pinned like a pig on a spit, tells me to get the fuck out, and then dies. Would have been a good thing to hear when I could still leave the way I came. And despite all this, instead of grabbing a box, jumping back through the vent, going back down the hallway, jumping back out the window that you came through, getting in your truck and driving away, there is still, again, no way that Miles could ever possibly leave this place in a logical or reasonable way. So we continue on.
Little pig. And who are you, then? I see. merciful God, you have sent me an apostle. Guard your life, son. You have a calling.
After being thrown out a window by a big ass dude and then told by a priest that our life might actually have some purpose, we walk up to the front desk, read about some legal stuff. I'll leave an image up here for a little bit so you can read it yourself. Essentially, it's just talking about affidavits being made before the board of directors by Murkoff Hardline Security, or MHS, and it's talking about security failures with imminent danger of environmental contamination, and it talks a little bit about how the MHS is going to be granted full access to the facility. And then walking into a supply closet to find another document, we finally get to learn a little bit more about the experimentation going on at Mount Massive. Patient initials CLW for Walker, case number is 136. Morphogenic engine activity plateaued at roughly 2000 ppm, unsafe to progress beyond stage 3 hormone schedule. Spirometry revealed light to medium bronchial accumulation, MRI scans consistent with patient's reported dreams. Walker was interviewed in restraints following his self-inflicted mutilations. Restraints have been altered to accommodate his enormous size. Extensive dermal eruptions as consistent with failed morphogenic engine cellular activity. He claims the skin ripped from his forehead allows for a truer way of seeing. Seems to have some boyhood experience with tuatara lizards and their parietal eyes. He has expressed anxiety about his flesh, specifically around his lips and nose. Attending orderlies should be advised to watch for further self-mutilation. The mental traumas he sustained while serving in Afghanistan seem to be retarding progression of the ME process. His predominant fixation amplified by therapy is a manic exaggeration of military security protocol. A continuation of both chemical and physical restraints is highly recommended. What we just read about was the experimentations and a little bit of backstory on the creature that threw us out of a window just a little bit ago. And after getting all that information, we walked down another hallway next to a harmless patient. After walking by him, we walk into a room with 3 patients just sitting around, staring blankly at a TV. After recording them for a little bit, we actually write down one of the more depressing notes in the game. A crowd of broken men watching a dead channel. They look like patients. They survived whatever happened here, but nobody's home. After walking through that room, we proceed into another room and grab the key card for the security room. Walk back down the hall by the friendly patient. And drop a body down an elevator shaft. Going down the security hallway, we enter a bathroom. In the middle stall, you see a bunch of blood, and then a dead guard that has the word witness written in blood above him. Miles then proceeds to complain about how he's all beaten up when this is all entirely his fault. He could have left at the very start and just never entered here, but now he has jokes such as, I wake up and some doughy old man with a face like an alcoholic kitty fiddler in a homemade priest outfit calls me his apostle. The next document is essentially just talking about more of the legal proceedings, 4 fatalities that were caused, and their evidence management. But at the very bottom, it says, violence among patients is increasing as the morphogenic engine therapy gets closer to producing working models, but a combination of physical and chemical restraints has proven sufficiently effective to assure continued control and profit. Respectfully, Helen Grant. We learn here that the morphogenic engine therapy is supposed to be producing working models for something, but as of right now, we don't know what that is. And we don't care. We access the security room, walk up to the security monitors, access their security system, open the front door, get in our truck, and we leave. Well, that dude's an asshole, but no time to deal with that now. We hear Chris Walker coming, so we hop into a locker, record him as he comes in, jot down a quick note because we're very smart. I do want to take a second to address this note. Miles writes, "The big fucker is stalking me, found a patient file for Chris Walker, ex-military police, several tours in Afghanistan. A lot of blood in this place is on his hands, but not all of it. And for whatever reason, I can't seem to think of who else has blood on their hands from this place." I don't know, I can't really put my finger on it, but either way, after jotting down this note, we run by Chris Walker with absolutely no fear in our body and run to the generator room downstairs. In the flooded basement just to the right, we come across another document, and as of right now, this is probably the most interesting document we've come across. The document reads, "Subject Hypnotic Experimentation and Research, February 10th, 1954. On Wednesday, February 10th, 1954, hypnotic experimentation and research work was continued in Building 13 of Mount Massive Preserve in Colorado using the following subjects. 1. A post-hypnotic of the night before, pointed fingers, you will sleep, was enacted. Mrs. Jackson and Pierce immediately progressed to a deep hypnotic state with no further suggestion. Miss Pierce was then instructed, having previously expressed a fear of firearms in any fashion, that she would use every method at her disposal to awaken Miss Jackson, now in a deep hypnotic sleep, and failing this, she would pick up a nearby pistol and fire it at Miss Jackson. She was instructed that her rage would be so great that she would not hesitate to kill Jackson for failing to awaken. Miss Pierce carried out these suggestions to the letter, including firing the unloaded pneumatic pistol gun at Jackson and then proceeding to fall into a deep sleep. After proper suggestions were made, both were awakened and expressed complete amnesia for the entire sequence. Miss Pierce was again handed the gun, which she refused in an awakened state to pick up or accept from the operator. She expressed absolute denial that the foregoing sequence had happened. From this, we actually find out some pretty interesting details about what the experimentation that Murkoff involves. One of the big components of that entire document was talking about how they could force people to do something that they don't want to actually do or don't like doing. While this is pretty interesting, we have more interesting things to do, such as turning this generator back on, running back up to the security room, logging back into their security system, and oh, for fuck's sake. After waking up in our new prison cell, we reflect on life and try and figure out how we got to this point in life. Exactly, bad life choices. But more importantly, why are we in this cell and why aren't we in our car driving away right now? Well, the priest who roofied us and isn't beating any of the diddling allegations anytime soon might have told us something about that before we blacked out.
I'm sorry, my son. I didn't want to have to do this to you. But you can't leave. Not yet. There is so much yet for you to witness. Will you see it? Can you? Our Lord, the Wall Rider, tearing his truth into the unbelievers. The only way out of this place is the truth. Accept the gospel, and all doors will open before you.
Well, that guy's a dick, but either way, he does give us some insightful information, mostly about the Wall Rider, which on the computer monitor, from what we see, is an invisible entity that they worship like a god. We watch it take out a group of guards, and I will give Miles credit. I take back what I say about him bringing police officers or a friend, because apparently he's omniscient enough to know that they would just be killed immediately. So technically he didn't put anybody else in harm's way by doing this, and for that reason alone I will begrudgingly give him a little bit of credit for that.
Who's this? Maybe Father Martin's man. Maybe. He looks nervous. I would like to kill him. As would I. The preacher asked us not to. It would be impolite. Not here. We give him a running start. There's an idea. And when we kill him, we kill him slow. Such patience. I want his tongue and liver.
On the bright side, I guess it can't get any weirder than two dudes with their dicks hanging out talking about killing you slowly and eating you and who gets what body part. And I take it back. After recording that horrific scene, Miles then proceeds to write, "Fuck this place. Seriously, just fuck this place. Dying keeps moving lower on my list of the worst things that could happen to me here." After continuing onward for a little bit, we find a message scrawled in blood that informs us that we need to follow the blood. And after following the blood, we come to an inmate that is finger painting with the blood, whispering to himself down the drain, which is also what's written in blood on the wall. And we also find another document talking about their art program, which this inmate was surely a part of, considering how fantastic his finger painting work is. There's not a whole lot to be said about this document. It's mostly just talking about their art program. There's nothing super interesting, but I'll leave it up for a couple of seconds so you can read it if you want. Alright, so quick editors, no editor's interjection, whatever you want to call it. There are an insane amount of documents and notes in the games. There's 62 documents and notes in Outlast 1, 31 documents and notes in the Whistleblower DLC, 55 documents in Outlast 2, 52 recordings in Outlast 2, and 221 documents in Outlast Trials. And that's too much, realistically, to read through all of them. So I'm going to be summarizing them or leaving them on screen for you to read if you're interested while background footage plays. But for quite a lot of them, they're not super lore significant. They do have lore implications, but for what I'm trying to do, I don't think it's going to be super important to go over stuff like the entire Gospel of Noth or anything along those lines. But for a lot of them, I will summarize them and I will talk about them briefly. It's just that if I talked about every single document, read through every single document, and then tried to put this together, this video would be over 12 hours long. I do still want to include all of the documents and notes, whether it be reading them, summarizing them, or just showing them on screen. I'll still read through some that I find interesting or that are super lore significant, but at the same time, I do want to talk about what's actually happening in the games, not just the lore, because there's interesting stuff that happens in the games outside of just the documents and notes and all the collectibles that you can get. So for me, being able to talk about what happens instead of just what you find is a little bit more of what I wanted to do with this video. And I hope that you can understand that cutting back on the amount of extra voiceovers that I have to do will save me time editing and shorten the video length by a significant amount, while also getting in all the details that are significant and still give you an understanding of the game's lore. Because I'm not doing a super deep dive into the lore. Like I said, there's plenty of people who go deeper into the lore than I will, but I do want to give at least a surface level or better analysis of what's going on in these games. So I hope it's at least enjoyable still and informative at the same time, even though I'm not talking about everything. Man, that guy talks a lot. But now that he's done rambling, let's get back into some interesting stuff like Chris Walker tearing some dude's head off. In the next note that Miles writes down, he pitches the idea that Chris Walker might not actually be a completely malicious entity, but might be trying to fix the problems that Murkoff has created, or at the very least prevent them from getting any worse. After entering the shower room, jumping out the window, shimmying along the wall, then jumping back in to avoid the twins, and entering a room just to the right of the door we went through, we come across a document that contains some interesting information for us. This document that we come across is actually a copy of the death certificate for Rudolph G. Vernick. The only problem with how interesting this is that I'm telling everything from the point of view that you are the character in the games, and because of this is the first time you're hearing about this person, so you have no clue who they are, and we'll just just get back to them later. Hi, past me. I just want to inform you real quick that you're a fucking idiot for saying this. Do you not remember back in the prison cell when you wrote a note that said this Dr. Vernick is at the center of whatever went wrong here, but he died more than 10 years ago? Rest in peace, says the blood on the wall. Yeah, no, you wouldn't remember that because you skipped over this note. I'll only give you a little bit of credit because it doesn't expressly tell us how much he knows about Dr. Vernick, but this isn't the first time you're hearing about him, so you're still a dumbass for saying that. After falling through a window and landing on a pile of corpses, we now have to find an alternate route to the showers. The first step in this is avoiding Chris Walker.
You won't have to kill yourself. I'll make the pain stop.
And after being chased by him for a little bit, we make our way to the cell block. In the cell block, we use the sketchiest methods possible to get up. Watch an inmate use the fastest way to get down. Come across a document sitting in a cell, and then make our way down a convenient hole before coming across a room covered in blood, and written on the walls in the blood is the words Walrider. After recording this, we jot down a note. This note reads, "The word Walrider is all over this place. Murkov was running an experiment called Project Walrider, but the patients talk about the Walrider like it's a physical presence, a spirit or demon, something they found in the mountain. I chalk it up to schizophrenic delusion, but I just saw something. Maybe it was a glitch in the camera, or maybe this place is getting to me." And this is where you get an idea of the IQ that Miles Upshar possesses, considering he chalked up multiple guards being thrown around and killed on a security tape to a camera glitch. And honestly, I don't know what else I would have expected him to blame it on, but I don't think a camera glitch can do that. I did skip over the document that we found earlier in the cell, but that's because it's the obituary for Dr. Vernick, and like I said, we'll get to him more later on.
I am supposed to be dead.
Exploring the sewer a little bit, we come across another document. The document gives us more of an idea about how some people view the Walrider as a religious figure, comparing it to a god. After making your way through the sewers for a little bit, you come across the lower junction ladder, but it's flooded. And here's where we get another encounter with Chris Walker. We then have to activate the two valves to drain the water that's flooding the ladder, which we do pretty quickly. Run back and go down the ladder, go through a little bit more of the sewers, and then climb up another ladder. At the end of this little hallway, we come across a door. Upon entering, we find an inmate who actually has quite a bit of decent information for us.
I can tell we're the same. You still know it's real. The doctor's dead. You know that, right? Dr. Wernicke died before he even started working here. What kind of experiments does a dead doctor perform on living patients? That's the question.
What kind of experiments does a dead doctor perform on living patients? That's the question. For the sake of not sounding like a broken record, you already know the drill. You make your way through some more sewers and then come across another area. Despite the fact that this area looks more like a flooded basement than a sewer, we are still in the sewers, and after traversing this area for a little bit, instead of going to our left where we should go, if you hop up here and then go into the room just down this little pathway, you come across a dead patient and a document sitting next to him. This document reads, "Already weak, cold. It's still bleeding, but it doesn't hurt anymore. And I almost have quiet. I can't hear the wall rider anymore. Maybe the therapy is wearing off. I can't remember the dreams. Said I could earn my release from this place by submitting to the therapy. Lies. Of course they were lying. It was not therapy. We were sacrificed to conjure a demon. Please let there be no dreams. The only help." Before cutting off abruptly. From this document, we get more of an idea of what they were doing with Project Wallrider. We get more confirmation that the Wallrider is a physical presence, but the ideas in this note imply that the Wallrider speaks to people through their dreams, and that submitting to the therapy isn't about getting therapy. It's about becoming a conduit for the Wallrider. And this point actually ties back into a previous document that we already read. Violence among patients is increasing as the morphogenic engine therapy gets closer to producing working models. So not only is our current document talking about the therapy not being real and that they're just being sacrificed to conjure a demon, but this is also verified by an employee of Murkoff themselves in this previous document. After making our way through this little area, down through some more sewers, and getting to the steps of the male ward, before going into the male ward, we go to the door at the back of the sewer area where we see a pile of dead bodies. After recording this, we write down a note. The note reads, "I thought the sewer couldn't smell any worse. Hundreds of bodies crammed into a room, thousands of flies. Is this the priest's way out?" After reaching the male ward, our new objective is to reach the ground floor. We have to traverse through the male ward to get there, and so we decide to start looking around. After walking into this room and then looking off to our left, we read a note written on the wall. "Fingers first, then balls, then tongue." After recording this, we write down a note. The note reads, "The harder I try to escape, the further I get into this god-awful place, like fighting a tar pit. They've been torturing people in the basement, and by method. Written on the wall, fingers first, then balls, then tongue. Somebody's managing the torture, instructing them." We push this rack out of the way, walk to the end of the hallway, and enter what appears to be a medical bay. Going to the back of the medical bay, we can find another document. This document is a patient status report by Rick Traeger. This patient also, unfortunately, did not make it. I tried my best, but I'm just a doctor, not a miracle worker. And I'm pretty new to this whole doctor thing, so I'm still working out all the kinks. Anywho, somebody's gotta cut the fat from this Project Wallrider disaster. We've been bleeding money ever since this thing went tits up on account of that Billy kid, but I've managed to slim back personnel by more than 80 people, which means short-term savings in salary and long-term savings in pension and healthcare costs. And I've been figuring out a lot about biology. I was on the fence about it before, but now I can say with absolute certainty that a person can't live without his kidneys. You learn something new every day. This document is actually pretty morbid. Traeger talks about how he's pretty new to the whole doctor thing and he's working stuff out. So he's clearly either unqualified or underqualified to be the doctor here. He also states that ever since things went tits up, that they've been bleeding money, but that he's been able to slim back personnel costs by more than 80 people, which he claims will save them money short term and long term. It's implied that he did this by experimenting on and eventually killing at least 80 people. He then makes a grim statement at the end of the document stating that he's figured out a lot about biology. A person can't live without his kidneys.
choice here, buddy. Hey, you're that bullshit priest's guy, aren't you? His witness or whatever. You must be exhausted. Huh? Let's take a break, huh, buddy? The old 2-martini lunch? Have a little confab, blah, blah. Heavier than you look. A little cardio wouldn't kill you. Okay, here we go, arms and legs inside the car at all times. You know, I love the mountain air up here at night. You want to head out and take a stroll? Go ahead, I'll wait here. Go on, run free. I'm in no hurry. No? All right. Nose to the grindstone, I like that. Okay then, right this way. We're putting that tongue to any use anyway. Truth be told, I was just tired of looking my own stance. Here we are then. Thanks so much for coming by. We'll begin your consultation in a moment. We'll just need a second to wash up and, movies. And it'll give us a chance to talk. You know, I'm a bit worried how much time you've been spending with Father Martin. I hope you haven't been letting him confuse you with all his holier-than-thou Bible thumping. No offense to the man, but I sometimes worry he might just be a little bit crazy. It's understandable. When people get scared, there's like to turn to God as anything else. You know, God died with the gold standard. We're on to a more concrete faith now. You have to rob Paul to pay Peter. There's no other way. Murder is the simplest form, but what happens when all money's gone? Well, money becomes a matter of faith. And that's what I'm here for. To make you believe. You paying attention? Don't pass out on me. There's still a lot for you to absorb. Better now, right? You understand how we achieved here? We made the consumer into the means of production. This thing is gonna sell itself.
After Trigger leaves and you escape the confines of the chair, you get up and vomit all over the floor, having just lost your fingers at the hands of this douchebag.
Go on, run free. I'm in no hurry.
But before we continue on, I want to talk about something that was mentioned in a previous document. Anywho, somebody's got to cut the fat from this Project Walrider disaster. We've been bleeding money ever since this thing went tits up on account of that Billy kid, but I've managed to slim back personnel by more than 80 people, which means short-term savings in salary and long-term savings in pension and healthcare costs. This is about the third or fourth time that it's been brought up that Murkoff is really only interested in this for money. They don't really care about anything that's going on other than what amount of money that they're making off of these experiments. I feel like it's important to note how much they emphasize the fact that they are only in this for the money.
Wernicke's nightmares. He worked so well. They couldn't control it. And you can't control it. Nobody. He'll find you. He'll kill you. He's coming now. Trigger! Trigger! I see what's happening. You're bored. You want a little attention. Perfectly understandable. I'm here for you. I'll give you very special attention.
After recording that scene, we jot down a note. The note reads, Traeger, sick fucker cut off my fingers, has tortured and mangled dozens of patients. I watch him murder another one. Nothing I can do about it. Talks like a white-collar business school douchebag. Probably has a set of golf clubs in the trunk of his Audi. I'd bet the rest of my fingers he was Murkoff brass before whatever's infected this place changed him. I want out of this place. I want my fucking fingers back. I want to see Traeger die. And once again, Miles has jokes, but aside from his comedic genius, we also get some insightful information from what the person laying in the bed who Traeger murdered says. He claims that he's also an executive at this place, just like Traeger. And after exploring our current location and coming across a bathroom later on, we find a document that could give us a hint as to who this person is. The document reads, "To whom it may concern, this is my third time asking for a reassignment after 2 months without an answer. I don't want to work at Mount Massive anymore. I have been an orderly my entire adult life, but have never experienced such a consistent level of secrecy and disrespect. I even have suspicions that some of the patients may be being abused. I know personally of 2 of them who have been moved to the basement ward and never returned. If I don't get an answer to this email, I will be forced to resign and may very well consider contacting the press. Thanks for your time. David Annapurna."
I'm not giving up on you!
Now that this asshole is dead, we decide to record him so we can savor this moment, but Miles ruins the moment by making another very hilarious, very comedic joke. How to make Traeger juice. Step 1. Squeeze. After getting out of the elevator and then running down some stairs, we come across Father Martin, who tells us,
Thank God you survived. I feared that secular maniac would carve you up like the others. Meet me outside. We're close now.
and while on our way to go meet Father Martin outside, we enter a locker room. In the locker room, there's a document that, like I was talking about before, also kind of hints at the fact that the person tied to the bed was indeed Mr. Annapurna. Mr. Walsh, please accept the immediate resignation of Orderly 531920, David Annapurna, and process him as a patient of Mount Massive to treat his persecutorial delusions. Treatment should continue until the time of his death. Thanks, buddy. Richard Traeger.
I had to burn it. All of it. Murkoff took so much from us. Used us. Turned us into these things because nobody cares about a few forgotten lunatics. So let it burn. Burn the whole goddamn thing down. Get out. If you want to live, you can get out through the kitchen.
I'm not the only victim here, not by a long shot. I watch a man wait to burn to death, the most painful death imaginable, rather than stay in this place. While going to turn the sprinklers on, we come across a document that simply says, if you're seeing this, say something. There's no shame in psychological proximity stress disorder. Talk to your supervisor to get help from Murkoff's success counselor. And on its own, this document seems pretty helpful actually. Telling anybody who's experiencing symptoms of PTSD to talk to a supervisor and get help from Murkoff's success counselors. But when you consider the fact that in the previous two documents it talks about somebody who's experiencing some anguish and then subsequently being admitted as a patient, it seems more nefarious than that. Almost like they're encouraging anybody with any sort of mental distress to essentially out themselves so they can be admitted as a part of Project Walrider. After activating both levers for the sprinkler system and then activating the sprinkler system itself, we make our way back through the cafeteria and into the kitchen. In the kitchen, after entering this room, we see a bowl of fingers. We record it and then jot down a note. And once again, we get an insight into what career Miles should have pursued: comedy, with his absolutely hilarious joke. I've said it before, but fuck this place. I've still got those fingers left. And just before going out the exit, we come into this room on our right and pick up a document off of this desk. This document reads, General problem. For the past several months, Bluebird has been endeavoring to ascertain by research, study, instructions, and some practice what value, if any, can be derived from SI, sleep induction, and H, hypnotic techniques when applied to war and specific agency problems. 3. Can we create, by post-H control, an action contrary to the individual's basic moral principles? 7. Can we guarantee total amnesia under any and all conditions? 8. Can we alter a person's personality? How long will it hold? 17. What are full details on a sleep-inducing machine? After reading that, we head outside, but we have more to discuss about the previous document. The document asks 5 questions. Can you control a person's actions contrary to their own basic moral principles? Can you guarantee total amnesia under any and all conditions? Can you alter a person's personality? How long will it hold? And what are the full details of a sleep-inducing machine? All of these questions bring us back to a document that details an experiment that revolves around these exact principles. 1. A post-hypnotic of the night before, pointed fingers, you will sleep, was enacted. Mrs. Jackson and Pierce immediately progressed to a deep hypnotic state with no further suggestion. Miss Pierce was then instructed, having previously expressed a fear of firearms in any fashion, that she would use every method at her disposal to awaken Miss Jackson, now in a deep hypnotic sleep, and failing this, she would pick up a nearby pistol and fire it at Miss Jackson. She was instructed that her rage would be so great that she would not hesitate to kill Jackson for failing to awaken. Miss Pierce carried out these suggestions to the letter, including firing the unloaded pneumatic pistol gun at Jackson and then proceeding to fall into a deep sleep. After proper suggestions were made, both were awakened and expressed complete amnesia for the entire sequence. Miss Pierce was again handed the gun, which she refused in an awakened state to pick up or accept from the operator. She expressed absolute denial that the foregoing sequence had happened. We get all of that information, but even within all of that, we still don't get the answer to the main question. Why? Why do they want to control people's actions? What's the purpose of it? After getting the key to access the maintenance shed and recording a video of the Walrider, we get a note from Miles that states the obvious. We traverse a little bit more of the courtyard until we come face to face with Chris Walker. On the other side of the hole that we crawl through, we find a fountain of blood. We record that and then write down a note. So much blood in the water. I can smell it. Like putting a pen in your mouth when you were a kid. The whispers are making more sense. I'm looking for static. It's like an itch.
You saw the Wall Rider, didn't you? You're beginning to understand, but not yet. Even Abraham had to cast his eyes to the ground. But soon, this way, revelation is at hand.
Attempting to reach Father Martin once again, we crawl through a window and end up next to a machine. We take a recording of the machine, and we write down a note that's actually pretty interesting for once. The sound in the machine, like the sound in my head when the wall rider appeared. I blink and I see static. Something else, something oily and dark descending behind my eyelids, watching me with organs I can't imagine. But the sound is coming from the machine too, from inside the walls. I know that sound. And then underneath the staircase, we find a document that talks about the mythology of the wall rider. Note: this is for support, notational purposes only. Engage in no direct contact with patients during or after therapy. The wall rider, also known as an owl, Mara, or Shrat, is a demonic creature of German origin that torments sleepers. They crouch on the sleeper's chest and crush the breath from him. The sleeper wakes terrified, paralyzed, and asphyxiating. The name Mara gives us the word nightmare. Sexual assaults by the demon are rare, but it has been known to drink milk from the breasts of sleeping women and blood from the nipples of sleeping men. Recording the body that's hiding inside of the elevator shaft, we write down a note. A dead body at the bottom of the elevator shaft, surrounded by food. He barricaded himself in someplace safe, someplace nobody could reach him. It didn't work. And after heading downstairs, we find another document that reads, REF, Nazi War Crimes Disclosure Act, A. The first, paperclip, provides a means of obtaining services of foreign specialists for specific assignments within the technical services of the departments of Army, Navy, and Air Force. B. Project 63 is primarily a denial program with utilization as a desirable feature. The aim of this program is to secure employment in the United States of certain preeminent German and Austrian specialists, thus denying their services to potential enemies.
Nearly here. You can cross from the upper floors.
This previous document is actually insanely interesting. It states that it's referencing the Nazi War Crimes Disclosure Act, which is actually a real-life act imposed by the CIA. It says that the first, or paperclip, which is another actual CIA document, provides a means of obtaining services of foreign specialists for specific assignments within the technical services of the departments of the Army, Navy, and Air Force. It also says that Project 63 is primarily a denial program. The aim of this program is to secure employment in the United States of certain preeminent German and Austrian specialists, thus denying their services to potential enemies. And to dumb that down a little bit, essentially the United States was recruiting Nazi and other specialist forces into the US Army, Navy, and Air Force just so other countries couldn't have access to the information that they acquired from their studies and experiments. And this revelation actually brings us back to our very first note that we took in the game. The Murkoff Corporation has a long track record of disguising profit as charity, but never on American soil. Whatever they thought they could get out of this place has to be big. It might finally be the story that breaks the bastards. And with all of that in mind, a lot of this starts to make more sense. Plenty of the documents previously stated as headers have MK Ultra program CIA document listed at the top. This now, with all of the information we've gathered, seems to imply that this is a CIA operation, but the CIA operation is featuring the help of Nazi scientists and other specialist groups, which would explain why now they're doing their experiments on American soil, because the American government is a part of all of these experiments. But again, even if that's true, we're still left with the question of why. Why would the US government want to be able to control what people do, how they act, and control their morals? Yes, this is a rhetorical question. I bet anybody can think of 100 different reasons why the US government would want to be able to control people, but in this universe, what is the reason for these specific programs and these specific experiments? What purpose do they serve? Later on, we'll be able to find out more about it, but that's just something for you to think on for the time being. After finding all of the fuses, lowering the laundry chute that has the key in it, and then going down to the laundry room and grabbing the key, we make our way up to the 3rd floor. While searching around the 3rd floor, we come across a document sitting in the corner of our room. The document is actually an excerpt from the diary of Shirley Pierce, who was a part of the experiment that we read about in the basement. How can I not remember where the cuts are coming from? They hurt so deeply, even days later. Dr. Newhouse tells me that it's my fault. I'm subconsciously resisting the hypnotherapy, but I want so much to get better. I don't know how I could be doing this to myself. Dr. Newhouse says it's another condition of my bedroom-inspired hysteria. Poor Bruce. I make him suffer, so I've tried subtly to ask Miss Jackson if she's had similar issues with her husband, but she is loath to talk about it. Her husband, too, has found comfort in younger women. I know the doctors only mean well, and with the help of the government men who've joined the staff, I am in the very best hands possible. I should just take my pills and sleep, and hope for more pleasant dreams tonight. While I was reading through that, we did miss a note, so I'm going to go back to that real quick. After walking into a room lit by candles and blood everywhere, written on the wall is the word lie. After recording this, we write down a note. I recognize the handwriting. Father Martin killed a man here. Are the lies he talks about all the files missing from these boxes? The facts, the records, they look like government agency material. At least 30 years old, probably older. I start thinking MK Ultra CIA, mind control. The buzzing won't stop. There's interesting things in both the document and note that we read here, but I'll go over the document first. In the document, Pierce says that she's having trouble remembering stuff, which, despite the fact that the doctor claims that it's her fault, probably isn't, considering the prior documents that we read about making people forget actions that they've taken while under the therapy. She then drops a little bit of background about herself, the fact that her husband's cheating on her, and the fact that Miss Jackson's husband is also cheating on her, or as they put it, has found comfort in a younger woman. She also seems like she's been indoctrinated into thinking that this therapy that they're going through is actually helpful, saying that she knows that she's in the best hands possible. It does also mention that she takes pills. We don't know exactly what these pills are, but she says that she should take those pills and hope for more pleasant dreams. In the note, however, Miles says that he recognizes the handwriting on the walls in blood to be that of Father Martin's, and that he killed a man here. He asks the question if the lies that Father Martin is talking about are all the missing files, facts, and records. He says that they look like government agency materials that are pretty old, but he does also make a mention that I talked about earlier, that he starts thinking of MK Ultra CIA, mind control, and then says that the buzzing won't stop. This seems to be a direct callback to my theory that I proposed earlier that the CIA has involvement in Murkov's experiments, specifically that of mind controlling patients for some currently unknown purpose. We make our way down to the bottom of the shower room to collect our camcorder, and after doing this we return to the dark room that we couldn't enter before without the camcorder. And going through that dark room, we then return to the administration block. Running down the hallway of the administration block, we come across Chris Walker. We dip into the room on our left and then jump into another air duct. At the end of the air duct sits a dead body, but before we get to that, we take a right and drop into a room that houses another document. Hey, Sydney. Another interesting conversation with Billy this morning. He says he's been talking to Dr. Vernick again for his therapy in the White Place. I'm disturbed by the fact that his delusions have only gotten worse with medication, which isn't in the literature for benzodiazepine. In any case, his dead doctor friend is filling his head with more German folklore. Apparently, the only thing that can kill the Wall Rider are vampiric butterflies vomited from a demon called Horrorseas. The butterflies suck the breath from people's lips and drink blood from their nipples. They can also take the form of emaciated upright pigs or sick dogs, so Billy's got that going for him. You'd mentioned Billy talking about his mother's tattoos before. Are any of them by chance tattoos of butterflies? Next time I get outside of Murkoff's firewall, I'm going to look online to see if there's any actual basis in German folklore, or if Billy's making this garbage up from whole cloth. Would love to compare notes sometime. Wouldn't mind doing it over a glass of wine. Gets lonely up here on 2. Kurt. Another document that we came across reads, I have pressing news concerning the ongoing work of Dr. Rudolf Wernick in his development of the morphogenic engine, expanding on theories developed in his brief but unfortunate relationship with A. Turing. If I had not witnessed it myself, I would not believe it had happened, but beyond even the promise in cellular regeneration and guided cancerogeneration, I believe Wernick's method has breached the spiritual realm. Something crossed from the other side. I personally witnessed the appearance of an apparition, briefly but undeniably so. Please forward my note and invitation to witness further experiments to Dietrich Eckhart. I do not doubt that the Führer himself may need be aware of our discoveries. It is in my opinion that Dr. Wernick's successes represent an enormous opportunity for our cause and the German people, and are obviously sufficient reasons to keep him out of any sort of culling program. Regards to your family. Signature illegible. In the document before this one, it tells about how Billy is having his head filled with German folklore, mentioning a demon called a Horrorseas. The doctor seems to think that it might be a psychological problem pertaining to a tattoo that his mother might or might not have. But in actuality, a Horrorseas is a real demon in German folklore. You can pause the video and read about what a Horrorseas is, but I do want to draw attention to a comment left on the Horrorseas wiki page by one NinjaCat01. My guy better leave the Wall Rider alone, which I actually found quite humorous. The second document here is translated from German and talks about Wernick's experiments under the Nazi regime. The writer of the document states that Wernick's studies might have ventured into the spiritual realm, stating that he's seen a figure appear, and then says that Wernick's successes represent an enormous opportunity for our causes and the German people.
Dr. Rudolf Wernicke, 14866. The films are real. There was no alteration to the footage at all, no trickery? None. In June of 1943, you recorded 3 instances of spontaneous bleeding. Half a dozen test subjects began to develop brain tumors?
Yes. The autopsies revealed that the tumors were pure lead.
It killed them? Can you explain why the results could not be reproduced in the United States?
I have my theories. My homeland in those years. It's impossible to understand the things we felt, what we believed. The overwhelming fear, ecstatic rage, and English words are insufficient. More than hope. The human mind in that environment is capable of extraordinary things.
You're saying the experiment needed...
The proximity to death, to overwhelming madness. Only a test subject who had witnessed enough horror was capable of activating the engine.
Do you believe your test subjects achieved something supernatural?
No,
Do you think that they contacted something supernatural?
nothing is supernatural.
Then what was it? You said Project Wallrider was a gateway. A gateway to what?
The man sounds like Dr. Strangelove's anemic brother. It's a 25-year-old audio recording, an interview with Dr. Wernick. Los Alamos means government work. Wernick talks about spontaneous bleeding, tumors, psychosomatic reactions, insufficiently disturbed people. seems to walk a line between science and Nazi mysticism. Only a test subject who's witnessed enough horror was capable of activating the engine, the morphogenic engine. The engine, the movie they're projecting. It gets in my head like a song you can't stop humming. I blink and see Rorschach tests that look like swarming insects and infected surgery wounds. The patients talk about using the engine to conjure the wall rider. It's the buzzing I hear in my bones. And this is where we start getting answers to questions that were previously stated in the game. How did Murkoff think they would make money off of a building full of crazy people? In this portion of the game, we get a direct answer to that in the interview with Dr. Vernick.
You're saying the experiment needed...
A proximity to death, to overwhelming madness. Only a test subject who had witnessed enough horror was capable of activating the engine.
Only a test subject who has witnessed enough horror can activate the engine. That's what Dr. Vernick tells us. And that seems to be coming true in Miles himself. As he states, the engine, the movie they're projecting, it gets in my head like a song you can't stop humming. I blink and Rorschach tests that look like swarming insects and infected surgery wounds. The patients talk about using the engine to conjure the wall rider. It's the buzzing I hear in my bones. From the direct words of Dr. Vernick himself to what Miles is stating he's feeling at this moment in time, this seems to make a valid theory that Miles, from everything that he's gone through, is becoming a good host for the wall rider. But a more interesting theory that I would like to put out is that Father Martin intentionally kept Miles here to become a host for the wall rider. Ever since Miles got here, and ever since Father Martin found him, Father Martin's been doing just about anything and everything that he can to keep Miles in the asylum. Everything from shutting off the power to directly sedating him and placing him in a prison cell. Not only that, but clearly Father Martin sees the wall rider as some sort of god or religious entity. And if you don't believe that, here's a refresher for you.
I see. Merciful God, you have sent me an apostle. Our Lord, the wall rider, tearing his truth into the unbelievers. You saw the wall rider, didn't you? You're beginning to understand, but not yet. Even Abraham had to cast his eyes to the ground. But soon,
And my final bit of evidence for this, the document in the sewer that we went over briefly, found scrawled in pencil on the back of an admittance form. Handwriting matches samples from patient Father Martin. This God is real. What we've mistaken so long for ghosts, spirits, madness, we were only willfully ignorant. The scales of Saul's eyes were fear, and when you see beyond it, you truly see. This is the gift of the wall rider, the gospel of sand. The greatest sin in the world is willful ignorance of God, to receive a revelation and not spread it to the waiting flock. This place, to stand in the way of salvation, is a sin for which there is no punishment too great. The static again. A patient knelt in prayer. Maybe he bought Father Martin's line of bullshit. Maybe he hears what I hear, but more clearly. Maybe it's his way out of this place. The priest called it the gospel of sand. And now we know what the gospel of sand is. The static. What's implied here is that they can see the wall rider in the static or hear his words through the static, but as of now it seems like we cannot hear it or see it. And as if we needed more proof, we come across a document that reads, "I am an unworthy supplicant who can serve our Lord only by feeding our Lord. Please take me, wall rider. Let my shepherd's apostle see it and spread it with his lies for a greater truth. Your time upon this world has come. My flesh longs for your beautiful wrath. My blood is filled with you and waiting to be set free. This is my prayer. Write your gospel in my flesh."
My Job, you alone shall escape it, Alva. This is your penultimate act of witness. The promise of the prophets was always freedom from death. And here it is. You will watch and record my death, my resurrection. And together we will be free. You are no longer in any danger. I fixed the elevator. It will take you to freedom. We will all of us be free. Now, my son.
I can't believe Father Martin one-upped Jesus Christ himself in shitty ways to die, and I don't believe I'm going to miss him. A way out. If he's telling the truth, now I've got a way out, and a story to tell. He wants me to spread his gospel. I'll tell the whole fucking world. Little interjection here. I have no idea who actually brought the elevator shaft down to the bottom floor. I want to think that it's Father Martin just because of the theory that I stated earlier about him keeping Miles here, but it could be the other person who we're about to talk to here soon. I'm pretty sure it's never directly stated who actually does this in the game, but if I find it while post-editing, I'll let you know. We write down a note and find a document here that I don't think served very much of a purpose, but later on we do come across another document just down this hallway a little bit. My 14th autopsy of a Walrider patient, showing no more signs of accepting the therapy than any of the others. There have been slight gains in cell migration and morphogenesis, including effects similar to human growth hormone, but nothing to suggest the stable creation of a sentient, independent swarm. So tired, doubting my judgment. We'll submit another request for leave. The psychological cost of using such far gone and further provoked patients is more than I feel I can handle. May suggest hanging less hope on the far-flung theories of a senile Nazi and moving towards using a similar mechanical engine based on major sperm protein. Will definitely suggest harsher chemical restraints. Murkoff Security killed patient 921 after he overcame enough tranquilizers to put down a hockey team. I'm afraid the hormone therapy is interacting with our chemical restraints in a counterproductive manner. Okay, so before we continue on, I'm going to go on a really long detour and try and explain something that probably didn't need to be explained, but I wanted to do it anyways because I'm a nerd. This formula right here. In the note that Miles writes about this, he says that this is the morphogenic engine. This equation is the entire morphogenic engine. And again, because I'm a nerd, I wanted to solve this equation. So I did really good in mathematics and science classes in high school and college classes that I took, but this is outside of my pay grade. So I actually used Grok AI to help me solve this equation, and it actually gave me some pretty decent results. The first thing I did was ask it if it could solve the equation for me. It says that the image shows a set of equations from classical mechanics, specifically relating to the motion of particles under a central force in a potential field. It then breaks down what the components of the equation possibly mean, but at the end it says that the type of system likely describes a perturbed motion in a plane where the perturbation depends on both positions x and y and the angular coordinate O. The presence of a secondary derivative with respects to O suggests a diffusive and harmonic effect in the angular direction, which is common in orbital mechanics or systems with rotational symmetry. For the answer, Grok says that you need additional information, specifically the initial coordinates to determine constants, which is what I went for first. And since Mount Massive Asylum is actually based off of a real place in Colorado, editor's note, I meant to say that it was based off of the actual mountain range. The asylum itself is actually based off of H.H. Richardson Complex, which is in Buffalo, New York. I got the coordinates for Mount Massive, Colorado, and plugged them into the system. After doing this, I again needed more information, specifically the values for all the letters that were featured in the system to get a numerical solution. And not knowing what to add here, I actually gave Grok the prompt that because this was a particle formula, can it plug in general values for particles? To which it did that. It gives us this answer to the problem, and then says that this describes the particle's motion decaying exponentially towards the origin due to the negative eigenvalues. And with that, I asked it for a real-world example of what this solution would actually be, to which it gave me this. In the real world, this equation likely models a particle or object, like a satellite or particle in a fluid, that starts displaced from its equilibrium position or ideal path. Due to restoring forces, gravity, springs, and dissipative effects, drag, viscosity, the object's motion damps out, or it spirals or settles back to the equilibrium point. The object's motion damps out and it spirals or settles back to the equilibrium point, the origin in this case, over time. The coupling between x and y introduces a slight rotational or oscillatory motion, but this also decays, leaving the object at rest or on its ideal path after a few time units. So why did I go out of my way to do all of this? Well, I did it out of curiosity first, but once it gave me this result, it actually had me thinking, what if, and we'll entertain this for a moment, this is the solution to the morphogenic engine. In the solution that we got, it says, a particle or object that starts displaced from its equilibrium position or ideal path due to restoring forces and dissipative effects, the object's motion damps out and it spirals or settles back to the equilibrium point over time. What if this is exactly what we're seeing throughout the game? The question is begged at the very beginning. What does Murkoff gain from doing these experiments in an insane asylum? Well, when you think about it, insane people would technically be starting off of their equilibrium point, the equilibrium point being sanity, because as Dr. Vernick himself states,
You're saying the experiment needed...
The proximity to death, to overwhelming madness. Only a test subject who had witnessed enough horror was capable of activating the engine.
what if this is the actual variable in the equation that we needed? Insanity. If you take an insane person and you can bring him back to his equilibrium point, this could, in theory, create the perfect conduit for the Wall Rider. Admittedly, throughout the game, it does make mention that people don't end up being good conduits for the Wall Rider, but I do have a theory for that too. What if the people that they're trying to experiment on are too far gone? What if they can't be pulled back to their equilibrium point? What if that's the birthplace of the variants? People who've gone through this can see the Wall Rider, can sort of interact with him, but they couldn't get back to the equilibrium point to actually become the host for the Wall Rider. So their minds just ended up broken. And real quickly, I'm going to talk about events that happened at the end of the game to finish this theory. At the end of the game, Miles becomes the conduit or the host for the Wall Rider. What if the reason for this is because Miles came into the asylum sane, but as he goes through it, he becomes more and more insane. But at the same time, using his notes and writing down his thoughts and feelings kind of keeps him sane. Sane enough to where he doesn't go too far off course. What if because of this, Miles is the perfect host? Miles is somebody who is partially insane, but is able to be dragged back to his equilibrium point. Maybe that's why he becomes the host for the Wall Rider at the end of the game, because he fits the perfect equation. An object that's off course that gets dragged back to its equilibrium point. This would also lend a hand to my previous theory about the document that's talking about PTSD. And on its own, this document seems pretty helpful actually. Telling anybody who's experiencing symptoms of PTSD to talk to a supervisor and get help from Murkoff's success counselors. But when you consider the fact that in the previous two documents it talks about somebody who's experiencing some anguish and then subsequently being admitted as a patient, it seems more nefarious than that. Almost like they're encouraging anybody with any sort of mental distress to essentially out themselves so they can be admitted as a part of Project Wall Rider. Which is exactly what I think they're doing. I think they're taking anybody who has any sort of mental disorder at all and throwing them into Project Wall Rider to try and find that perfect variable that they need to create the perfect host for the Wall Rider. I haven't seen anybody put out a theory like this, and if they have, somebody will tell me about it in the comments. But even if this is wrong, I still think that it's a pretty fun and interesting way to think about the morphogenic engine and the experiments that Murkoff is conducting. And now with all of that out of the way, let's go back and hear what Dr. Wernick had to say.
I know. I am supposed to be dead. No such luck. I am older than sin, but somehow the only one left. Because of Billy. He takes care of me. He may think I'm his father. He certainly loves me, the poor idiot. Do you know what this symbol represents? It warns of a nanohazard. Microscopic machines. Technology we have had for decades but never mastered. Murkoff discovered in my research a workaround. Turning the cells in the human body into nanofactories. It's the natural function of cells to produce molecules, but through psychosomatic direction, we engineered the precise molecules necessary. Mind over body. It was foolish and wrong to think we could control it. To use madmen to make something so strong. You have to stop him to murder Billy. Turn off his life support, his anesthesia. You have to undo what I've done. No one can get out of this place while he lives. You must kill him.
Whether you think what Dr. Wernick says proves or disproves my theory, I'll leave that up to you. But now we have more important things to get after, such as killing Billy. Editor here again, fuck you past me. We're watching Chris Walker's death scene because we skipped over that and I think it's probably the best scene in the game. So we're gonna watch that real quick and then we'll get to killing Billy. A lot of the documents and notes from here on out aren't really worth talking about in extensive detail, but I will be reading through all of them up until the end of the game. Note to all personnel from Consultant MM008, Rudolph Furnick. Do not worship the swarm, nor allow the delusions of the patients to influence your beliefs. Any sentient being based in this technology will be so far superior to us that illusions of godliness will be reasonable. We have always looked into chaos and called it God. We now believe with sufficient power that such beliefs could destroy us. Do not be tempted. Remember that you are scientists. The assembler, the feed chamber, the precursor molecules. Vague memories of nanotechnology articles I've read online. Probably drunk, probably distracted, not nearly enough to know how to destroy it. But Billy is the center of it. Find him, kill him, end this. Just a quick note, this document is actually important because it tells us how to disable the morphogenic engine. To avoid patient injury, the morphogenic engine life pod requires a daily inspection of all vital systems. Vital System 1. The enriched oxygenated perfluorocarbon from the life support fluid reservoir must be continually flushed and replaced through the course of the patient's treatment. Note that OP also supplies anesthetics. Any interruption in supply will cause sufficient pain to the patient to potentially disrupt the experiment. Vital System 2. Electric supply is supplemented and ensured by the sublab generator. Proper fueling and maintenance of the sublab generator should be confirmed hourly. Vital System 3. In the case of catastrophic loss of vital systems 1 and 2, the LifePod failsafe will engage in maintaining localized minimum life support functions until technicians can arrive. Disabling failsafe will result in immediate patient termination. From Billy's patient reports, he ought to be 23 years old. He looks at least 50 years of rough road, pain scratched deep into what I can see. Killing you would be an act of kindness. This is Billy Hope's lungs, his liver, his life support. A machine the size of a football stadium to keep one lunatic alive. Fuck it all. Break it all. He has to die. From the personal records of Dr. Vernick, Frankenstein, or the Modern Prometheus by Mary Shelley, published anonymously in 1818, Chapter 4, Excerpt. Learn from me, if not by my precepts, at least by my example, how dangerous is the acquirement of knowledge, and how much happier that modest man than he who aspires to become greater than his nature allows. Please find attached the permission to proceed form for patient William Hope of the Murkoff Charitable Psychiatry Program at Mount Massive Hospital in Colorado, USA. The form is standard and all relevant lines have been signed. It appears Billy is unaware of his mother's recent guided cardiac arrest. He is submitting to the experiment with the understanding, unfounded, of financial remuneration to his mother and a charitable contribution to her church. Vernick, having read the boy's dream reports, believes he has enormous therapeutic potential. I will stop here for 1 second just to make mention of something. If you haven't figured it out already just how brutal Murkoff is, refer to this document. It appears Billy is unaware of his mother's recent guided cardiac arrest. They killed Billy's mother so they could keep Billy as a patient here, and so his mother couldn't pursue her lawsuit against Murkoff. Billy asked about the status of his mother's lawsuit against Murkoff in the asylum, and that's not even mentioning the fact that they're also hiding this by saying that he's submitting to it willingly under the guise of financial remuneration to his mother and a charitable contribution to her church. So if you weren't aware of just how fucked up Murkoff is, at least now you know. Billy is dead. The Wall Rider. The Swarm. Whatever it is, unmade with him. Whether I escape or die here, I am free.
You have become the host.
Jesus God, what is that thing?
And with that, we come to the end of Outlast 1. Hi guys, Future Me here. Before we continue with the Whistleblower DLC, I just want to say that I'm starting to hate this Past Me dude. Despite having a guide up and everything for collecting all of the documents and notes, he still managed to miss one note and one document. This didn't really have an effect on the video overall because Past Me went back and used chapters to grab the missed note and missed document, but because I'm a perfectionist, he didn't get the achievement because he didn't do it all in one playthrough. So I went back and played through the game again just to get the achievement. Not that you needed to know that, but I wanted a reason to call Past Me an idiot.
Let me help you.
You getting these notes?
Kind of busy here.
It sounds like real trouble. At the engine, they said Hope made a lateral ascension.
What do you hope? You're not happy about it?
Shit. Come on.
Okay, so 3 things in this opening sequence. For one, this doctor's freaky as fuck. More importantly, the other person who comes into the room tells the doctor that Billy has made, and I can't really make this out because of the static that was in the background, but I believe she says that he made a lateral ascension, to which the doctor says, shit, and then storms off. We fade to black and the text tells us that the sequence that follows happened 2 hours earlier. We see a computer screen and on it is the text from the first document in the base game of Outlast. The person writing this document is Wayland Park. our whistleblower.
No, I don't need another performance evaluation. Mr. Park here is gonna have us up and running before we even know it. Right, Mr. Park? Are we happy, Mr. Park?
Steve? fMRI is still dark.
You're doubting our friend, Mr. Wayland Park? Which I consider more than kind to his programming skill and considerable dedication to the Murkoff Corporation. Fuck me, they're bringing him in.
No! No, not again! No, no! Jack Morton, Fox! Run! Help! Help me! Help me! They're gonna rape me! Ray! Ray! Help me! Don't let them do this! Don't let them! You! I know you can stop this! You have to help me! You have
Hey, calm yourself. This is a high security...
It's all right, Agent. Mr. Park was just surprised. I'm sure he's still calm and eager to finish his work. Take your seat. Quickly, Mr. Park. Head will need to roll if the fusion monitoring is not active when we put him in the engine. 5 seconds. 4. 3.
Arterial spin labeling is back online.
Good.
Positioning imaging planes.
You're finished, Mr. Wayland Park. You can leave. Don't expect anything but honesty, my friend.
As we know from the document in Outlast 1, Wayland Park's job at this facility is a software engineer. In this sequence of events, though, on the computer monitor we get to see one Eddie Gluskin, a patient, a part of the Walrider project. And this portion, outside of giving us some context for Wayland Park's job and what he actually does here, is also some epic foreshadowing.
Somebody's been telling stories outside of class.
On the floor! Down! Hands where I can see them!
Mr. Wayland Park. Consulting contract 8208. Software engineer with a level 3 security clearance. Graduated cum laude from Berkeley, but still somehow not smart enough to realize that the last thing a fly ought to do in a spider's web is wiggle. Somehow dumb enough to think that a borrowed laptop, onion router, and firewall patch would be enough to fool the world's leading supplier of biometric security. Stupid, Mr. Park. More than stupid. In fact, that was crazy. I'm afraid we're going to have you committed. Mr. Park, will you willingly submit to forced confinement? Did you hear that, Agent?
He said yes, Mr. Blair.
Great. Oh, and did I just hear Mr. Wayland Park volunteer for the morphogenic engine program?
Well, that's what I heard, Mr. Blair.
That was brave indeed, Wayland. The Murkoff Corporation and the onward march of science both appreciate your bravery and sacrifice. Maybe you could administer Mr. Park here a light anesthetic.
Gladly.
Now you see how we got here. We got caught, and they volunteered us for the morphogenic engine program. Like I stated in the base game portion of this video, this is what I believe that they were doing. They'll take anybody for any reason and throw them into the morphogenic engine program so they can have more patients. And you get an idea of this just with the way that they talk to Wayland. Quotes like, "more than stupid. In fact, that was crazy." As if it wasn't clear enough from the document where they forged a willingness to participate for Billy after killing his mother. You get the idea by now. They're not the most ethical corporation. I fucked up. Oh God, where am I? Hours could have passed, or weeks. Brain filled with static. They made me watch the engine. Have to get help. Have to call for help. Lisa, I'm sorry. If I die, I know you'll find me. I know you won't rest until you find my body. I hope you find this camera with my corpse. I hope the evidence on it does what I couldn't, exposes the truth. Lisa, baby, I'm so sorry. I fucked up. I thought I was doing the right thing, but I fucked up bad. Despite being the first note in the game, it gives us quite a bit of information that we can apply back to the first game. It says, brain filled with static, they made me watch the engine. And as you remember, the Gospel of Sand was just the TV static. And here, Waylon Park says that his brain is filled with it.
Come to join our therapy session. Here, take the blade. Keep it rounding our friend here. Get a little red on your hands. It's always healthy to express yourself. You keep it bottled up too long and you might do something you regret. No. You're one of those. Too good for the likes of us. Think you're different? Something special? There are no observers here. Now, get the fuck out of here before I change my mind.
The fucker trying to go. Come back here!
Bad idea. We get out of here through reception and then Merc Tactical clean it up.
If they get here in time, we need help now. If we get them on the radio, the National Guard could be here with it.
We don't even know the radio works.
It's shortwave. If the prison's got electricity, they've got signal, and the lights are on.
Murkoff has it under control.
Yeah, I noticed. We need to get to that radio.
Outside help doesn't come without outside attention. You want responsibility for every legally shaky thing you did on the Murkoff Company payroll? I know I don't.
It's too late to worry about that.
There's a radio in the prison, shortwave. If it's electronic, I can make it talk, make it work for me. There's hope, Lisa. I'm coming home to you. My mistake was subtlety, like you always said. I thought leaking information to a few journalists was the safer way. I didn't want the spotlight, the attention. Murkoff is dangerous. I know that. I thought I had to be subtle for your sake, Lisa. For the boys. But I should have exposed what Murkoff is doing to the world. I should have shouted to anyone and everyone, I can't die. Not before I reach the radio. They can't cover this up now. It's too broken. Too dangerous. After hearing the two men talk about there being a radio in the prison, Waylon says that he can make that work, but it doesn't seem like he wants to make it work to call for help. With what he writes in this note, it seems more like he wants to use the radio to tell people what's happening, in case he dies. As he says, I can't die, not before I reach the radio. They can't cover this up now. It's too broken, too dangerous. I'd never seen a man die before today. Never seen a dead body outside of a coffin. Dozens today, murdered and worse. I looked into one man's eyes as another tore him to pieces. He claimed he was a doctor, then saw the rags they've dressed me in and changed his story. Said he was a patient. Could have been either. They're all crazy, all sick. No real difference between them now. The therapy is spreading. And what am I? I watched this man die and only thought, it's not me, thank God. I know I'll die someday. I don't want to be murdered. Miss Grant, you may receive requests for information from a Mrs. Lisa Park of Leadfield, Colorado, in the coming weeks concerning the resignation and hospitalization of her husband, Waylon. If so, please forward them to my personal attention. Waylon Park, former consulting contract 8208, resigned due to previously undiagnosed mental illness. I personally visited Mrs. Lisa Park and her sons and broke the news to them, with the silver lining that Murkoff Psychiatrics would be graciously providing treatment. Miss Park had some less than charitable things to say about myself and the Murkoff Corporation. I assured her that with her power of attorney, she could try and fight the doctor's diagnosis of her husband's illness. However, if it were discovered that he resigned under false pretenses, his insurance would be cancelled and the family would be saddled with not insignificant healthcare debts. Hopefully she understood, but if she insists on making a nuisance of herself or tries to get around me, please let me know. This is one I want to take care of personally. Yours, Jeremy Blair. Don't ask to see my body, Lisa. When I die, when you finish the lawsuits that let you pry this footage from Murkoff's army of lawyers and corporate hitmen, don't make them show you my body. Just bury it or burn it. Let my sons remember me whole. That man is eating human flesh. He looks at me and I see anger, a little desire, but more than anything, hunger. Please don't make them show you my body. So this is kind of common for the DLC where you'll find a lot of stuff back to back to back to back. So whenever that happens, I'll read through all of them if they're important at all, and then I'll talk about them all at once and just save some time. Starting with the first note though, Waylon says that he looked into one man's eyes as another tore him to pieces, claimed he was a doctor, then saw the rags they've dressed me in and changed his story. Said he was a patient. Could have been either. They're all crazy. All sick. No real difference between them now. The therapy is spreading. So with that, it kind of implies that even the scientists here are going pretty mad, but it does also point evidence to the fact that the scientists do know that what they're doing is torture, and they know that the repercussions from this, if a patient gets a hold of them, is they're going to be brutalized and murdered. And we know this because we've seen it multiple times already.
Take the blade. Keep it rounding our friend here.
Although it seems that some of the patients just want revenge on the scientists who tortured them, there are other patients who are indifferent to it. As it's implied in the last note, Waylon thinks that if any of these people were to get their hands on him, he would just be ripped to shreds and not be in one piece. Begging Lisa to not look at his body and not let his son see his body. And even though I say it's implied in the note, it's verified here during this sequence where the man with the saw is chasing you around. If they get their hands on him, he's going to be ripped to shreds, so it's a valid point. The document, however, I believe is the most interesting part of this whole sequence. It's a letter from Jeremy Blair, which we know to be the man who admitted us to the morphogenic engine program.
Mr. Park, will you willingly submit to forced confinement? Did you hear that, Agent?
He said yes, Mr. Blair.
Great.
It seems as though Jeremy Blair has some sort of grudge against Waylon. He tells Mrs. Grant that if she receives any requests for information from his wife, Mrs. Lisa Park, to forward them to him. And after describing their encounter where he went to their home and informed them of Waylon Park's diagnosis, he says hopefully she understood, but if she insists on making a nuisance of herself or tries to get around me, please let me know. This is one I want to take care of personally. If he hadn't just outright said that he personally wanted to take care of it, I would have just thought that he's an asshole. But with that line, it seems like he is an asshole, but also has a grudge against Waylon Park. Notes: this is a request for specific legal consultation in the ongoing lawsuit by Melissa Cho against Murkoff Charitable Psychiatry Inc., USA, originally filed in 2010. At the time of Ms. Cho's termination, the psychosomatic effects of the morphogenic engine on female employees and patients had been well established. Already more than 7 female employees and patients had reached fictitious half-term pregnancies in a matter of weeks, before miscarrying the non-existent child, 5 of them fatally. Female employees were moved to higher floors in the facility, then to other buildings, and eventually entirely off of the Mount Massive facility. The critical secrecy of Project Walrider necessitated secrecy in the motivating factor for the reassignments and terminations, resulting in perceived injustice from several terminated parties. Ms. Cho had succeeded in acquiring a court-ordered FOIA release of the documents surrounding her termination. Those documents will need to be generated and post-dated, providing ameliorating information while skirting the relevant secrecies of the project. Please advise. For the time being, I will skip over the document that we find in the church area, and I'll come back to the document that we find before that, because right now, I want to go back to the base game and drop a body down an elevator shaft. So not only do we get proof that Miles Upshar is a cold-blooded killer who dropped a man down an elevator shaft, but now we know that these events are taking place at the same time. While Wayland Park is trying to make his way out of the asylum, so is Miles Upshar. And now back to the document. The document says that the morphogenic engine had a really weird effect on women. It states that female employees and patients had been well established. Already more than 7 female employees and patients had reached fictitious half-term pregnancies in a matter of weeks before miscarrying the non-existent children, 5 of them fatally. From this, we get an idea of just how intensely the morphogenic engine can affect people. Considering that it affected these patients enough to make them not only reach fictitious pregnancies, but also when miscarrying them, they were fatal. This was enough for Murkoff to completely move females off of Mount Massive facility entirely. It also states that female employees and patients were both well established to have this happen to them. Which in the context of this document, I can't tell whether or not it means secondhand female employees were experiencing this just from being around the morphogenic engine, or if this just further proves that Murkoff was using employees as test subjects for the morphogenic engine. The other half of the document is talking more about their damage control, where Murkoff is trying to navigate the lawsuit that Ms. Cho brought against Murkoff, while also maintaining the secrecy of the project itself. Back to the document in the chapel real quick. It reads, Father Clark, far be it from me to lie to a man of God, so let me at least say that I will do my personal best to improve the safety of your working conditions. I and the rest of the staff truly appreciate everything you do for our patients, and if you feel threatened by anybody in particular, simply let us know, and we can either increase chemical restraints or administer a lobotomy or similar calming procedure. Don't underestimate the contribution your sermons offer our patients, especially considering the depth and necessary chaotic nature of hypnotherapy. Our patients need the bedrocks of God and family. Not all of our poor unfortunates have families to call upon, and so the burden and calling is yours. We are all of us relying on your faith and hard work. Dr. Newhouse, MD. Lisa, or whoever finds this, know that Murkoff is making monsters. I'd never seen a patient after they'd gone through that German so-called therapy, the engine. So much worse than I could have imagined. They may still be human, but something's been ripped out of them, and too many other things pushed back in. They were not all murderers. They were sick. But they weren't killers. Murkoff made them monsters. Dr. Rosette said the engine had varying effects, the variant outcomes too erratic for any sort of prediction. I took it as idle cafeteria small talk, Raoul's endless chatter. I should have listened. Influencing human behavior. The potential use of psychochemicals in political action operations is well recognized, although it has not been explored as thoroughly as might be expected. Chemical Division includes it as an objective of its program to be prepared to support or make such operations possible. Non-chemical methods of accomplishing political action operations are also included in the program. Present the above MK Ultra excerpt to Technical Services Division for budgeting and authorization of continued research into research of Dr. Rudolf Wernick and Project Walrider. Autopsy of recovered test subjects show chemical content of bodies, metallic tumors, evidence of subdermal combustion that indicates heavy psychochemical dosage. So a few things about all of these. In the note from Dr. Newhouse to Father Clark, he says, don't underestimate the contribution your sermons offer our patients, especially considering the depth and necessary chaotic nature of hypnotherapy. Our patients need the bedrock of God and family. And while this seems to be a kind-hearted note to Father Clark, it also seems to be a contradiction to a document that we read in the base game. We have always looked into chaos and called it God. We now believe with sufficient power that such beliefs could destroy us. Do not be tempted. Remember that you are scientists. Since it seems like in this, Dr. Vernick is warning against the beliefs of gods, it seems off that they would be encouraging somebody to teach their patients about God. What this is used for, I actually don't know. The only thing that I can think of is that it's providing a variable for the morphogenic engine, where maybe a believer in God might receive it a little bit differently. An example of this might be somebody like Father Martin. Maybe after being preached to and then undergoing Project Walrider, he ended up not being a recipient of the Walrider, but becoming a witness for the Walrider, as his idea of the Walrider had been skewed to that of a godly being. The note tells us more about how the morphogenic engine produces its variants. In the note, Wayland states that Dr. Rosette said the engine had varying effects, the variance outcomes too erratic for any sort of prediction. And we see this throughout the game, as plenty of the variants act differently towards different things, they react to different things, they act a different way, and a lot of them came out with certain specific variables to them that are quite obvious, such as Father Martin, Chris Walker, Richard Traeger, and even some of the more general variants that we see around the asylum. As Wayland states, they may still be human, but something's been ripped out of them, and too many other things were pushed back in. They were not all murderers, they were sick, but they weren't killers. Finally, the influencing human behavior document. This document is easily the most interesting out of the three, and for very good reason. As we stated in the base game before, Murkoff seems to be trying to influence human behavior to do things that they normally wouldn't want to. Further proof of this document. The potential use of psychochemicals in political action operations is well recognized. Chemical Division includes it as an objective of its program to be prepared to support or make such operations possible. Present the above MK Ultra excerpts to Technical Services Division for budgeting and authorization of continued research into research of Dr. Rudolf Vernick and Project Walrider. And with those few snippets of information, we might have just gotten the answer to a question that I posed in the base game portion of the video. But again, even if that's true, we're still left with the question of why. Why would the US government want to be able to control what people do, how they act, and control their morals? Yes, this is a rhetorical question. I bet anybody can think of 100 different reasons why the US government would want to be able to control people. But in this universe, what is the reason for these specific programs and these specific experiments? What purpose do they serve? Psychochemicals can be used in political action operations. Non-chemical methods of accomplishing political action operations are also included in the program. These two statements alone, mixed with the fact that it says present the above MK Ultra excerpt to Technical Services Division for budgeting and authorization, seem to indicate that this is one of the reasons for these experiments. If not the biggest reason, it's at least a pretty decent portion of the reason why, especially considering that, again, the US government is involved in all of this. And as we all know, the US government loves sticking its nose into other countries' politics. A little bit earlier, we actually found another document, and this one is the case file for Frank Antonio Manera, or as we know him, the asshole who's been chasing us around with a handsaw. Minimal morphogenic engine activity and only at extreme stages 5 and 6 levels of hormone therapy. Dream states return repeatedly to images of isolation and betrayal. Zero lucid state. Heavy bronchial accumulation consistent with patients with histories of tobacco and marijuana. Exceptionally low REM activity. At the time of this interview, Frank was down to 155 pounds from his admission weight of 228. He was lethargic and largely non-responsive, exhibiting interest only in the hypnotherapy script pattern 9, Vernick. Concerning drinking blood from the chest of sleeping men, he continues to refuse baths or the attention of a barber outside of general anesthesia, stating, "If I cannot partake, I cannot share." Recommended forced nutrition for Mr. Manera if we cannot find something he likes to eat. And with that, we arrive in the recreational area. A scream. Is it him? The cannibal? Could be pleasure or pain. I won't guess. I'm not sure he'd even know. His voice sounds like something I wanted while watching The Engine. Its only message is hunger, to crush and consume. I'm going to try to forget it. Lisa, if I get out of here, I'm going to come back to you. From this, it seems like just being around the morphogenic engine or witnessing it gives you some sort of behavioral side effects. Like I said earlier, I couldn't tell you if the women who experienced the pregnancies, the ones that were stated to be employees, only acted that way if they were a part of the program or if they witnessed it. But from this, it kind of gives the hint that you don't have to be a part of the morphogenic engine program to experience some side effects. He's playing alone and losing. That is what the game is. There is a mathematical proof. If you add 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5 and so on up to infinity, you can arrive at an answer. If you stop shy of infinity, you have an indescribably large number. If you continue all the way to infinity, you arrive at 1/12, negative 0.0833333 repeating. I'm losing my grip on things. I'm thinking about the drive here, 400 miles in a rented truck. The job that shows up just in time to cover our bills, our debt, the insurance. The boys sleeping in the back, nothing but AM radio. Gospel, country western, late night paranoid talk radio. We sang Patsy Cline songs and laughed at conspiracies of aliens and ghosts. Mile marker numbers passing in headlights. I don't want to die here. This note is very confusing. As Wayland states, he's losing his grip on things. But what is he even thinking about? He says that he was thinking about the drive here in the 400 miles, whatever. But what is he talking about when he says he's playing alone and losing? That is what the game is. And then goes into a mathematical proof of the fact that he's losing, but the math doesn't seem to make very much sense. So according to some research that I did, in string theory, the sum of all natural numbers up to infinity is actually negative 1/12. So even though he is losing his grip on reality, I guess his math still stands up, so congratulations, I guess. But I think the point that he's trying to make is that if he plays alone forever, naturally at some point upon reaching infinity, his score will be negative 1/12. And since negative 1/12 is less than 0, the score that his invisible opponent would have, he would still be losing the game. This to me seems like a very nerdy way of just saying that no matter how hard you try and for how long, you'll always lose, which might be Wayland Park's mindset at this point. No matter how hard he tries to expose Murkoff, he'll be fighting a losing battle somehow. And that could possibly be another point of the equation. No matter how hard you try to expose Murkoff, and no matter how many reports come out, they'll always come out on top, which is probably nowhere grounded in the reality of what it's trying to tell us, if it's even trying to tell us anything. But if it is, it's a pretty cool and nerdy way of telling the player that that's how this ends. You'll always lose. Kurt, we've got another one, and I'm not sure you're going to be able to check it off as psychopathic proximity disorder. Security guard all the way in the admin block is our latest non-patient employee to start seeing Vernick's fairy tales. He was never directly exposed to the engine, never even made it below level 1 in the building. It would be an enormous breach of protocol and security if doctors were speaking of the wall rider within hearing of the contracted security guard, and seems vanishingly improbable that he would stumble onto such an obscure mythological story on his own. It's too similar to the Dr. Samuel case, or the others before him. It's one thing for formerly sane medical personnel to fall under the delusions of their patients. It's another thing entirely for those beliefs to be, I don't know, airborne. We need to talk in person. Billings. So apparently now it's an airborne infection. Can just spread to whoever, wherever. But I don't think that's actually true. I feel like it's more probable that a doctor was speaking about it around him, like it's stated in the document. It also talks about Dr. Samuel's case, or the others before him, where it seems to be implied that they succumbed to the delusions of their patients. This could be the most likely scenario of what happened to the security guard, which, like they said, would be a breach in protocol. But if it is something that can be transmitted through the air, that seems way more terrifying.
Waylon, you couldn't just keep your mouth shut. You couldn't just play along. But you're talking now. Do me a favor and die here, Park.
And we can officially confirm that that dude is indeed an asshole. But now we have to exit via the administration block like it said over the announcement, and we come across a scene that we saw in the base game. A man finger painting down the drain in blood. Somebody who looks as much like a priest as this place looks like an asylum, writing instructions on the wall, talking about God, tells me not to be afraid. How was I ever a part of this inhumane bullshit, greed-driven moral genocide? The monsters Murkov ripped from tortured minds, the lengths the jackbooted business school worms will go to protect it, their own men slaughtered. I've never prayed in my life, Lisa, but if some small-minded interventionist God is listening, kill Jeremy Blair before I die. Sanity and avarice. There's no pain he doesn't deserve. There's no radio. No hope of reaching the outside world. Only escape. The document that we found before we went outside reads, Rick, fun hitting the green last week. We should make the drive more often. Was reviewing some old test records from the early days of Project Wallrider, and something sparked my interest. Were you following the project back in 2010? Apparently we had issues with female employees experiencing psychosomatic pregnancies, something to do with how the morphogenic engine interacts with the immune system. All Greek to me, am I right? It was more often fatal than not, and these were employees, not patients, so a little harder to sweep under the rug. But the morphogenic engine activity in these ladies' marrow was off the charts, and these are women who were never even exposed to additional hormone therapy. Now, I don't know ppm from a kick in the teeth, but I can read a spreadsheet, and if the projected profits from Project Wallrider are half what they say they are, I've just got one question. Why aren't we performing experiments on women? God knows mental illness is an equal opportunity affliction. Seems unethical to pass up on such a potential windfall. Sincerely, Jer. Now, I know we're getting a lot of documents and notes in this part really fast, but I do want to take a second to talk about these before we have to read through all of those. First off, in the note, Wayland Park says, somebody who looks as much like a priest as this place looks like an asylum, writing instructions on the wall, talking about God, tells me not to be afraid. This is Father Martin. Fuck that guy. That's all I have to say about that. Now, as for the document, this is a note from Jeremy Blair to Richard Traeger. He talks about hitting the green last week and that they should do it more often, but then he starts talking about back in 2010 when they had issues with female employees. We've already learned about this, but he goes into a little bit more detail about it. He says something to do with how the morphogenic engine interacts with the immune system. It was more often fatal than not, and these were employees and not patients, so a little harder to sweep under the rug. And these are women who were never even exposed to additional hormone therapy. And despite all this, he's only interested in the profits from experimenting on women, stating, "Why aren't we performing experiments on women? God knows mental illness is an equal opportunity affliction. Seems unethical to pass up on such a potential windfall." So again, I only have one thing to say about this. Fuck that guy. Above the knee, below the navel, sliced and sewn on Gluskin's table. To make a place to push inside, the groom will make himself a bride. I'm not reading that over and over again, you get the idea, but that's the document that we found first whenever we came outside. The document is just a poem talking about Gluskin making himself a bride, and I'm just sat here wondering what that's supposed to mean. Probably nothing. Kill us. Burn the building. Worse than death here. Kill us. Kill us. Now this document actually seems to refer to something that we saw in the base game.
I had to burn it. All of it. Murkoff took so much from us. Used us. Turned us into these things because nobody cares about a few forgotten lunatics. So let it burn. Burn the whole goddamn thing down.
I'm not the only victim here, not by a long shot. I watch a man wait to burn to death, the most painful death imaginable, rather than stay in this place. The power is still on. Electricity. I need to think, Lisa. I thought the power was evidence that some human force still controlled some small part of Mount Massive. But nothing human or sane can do anything here but survive. And even that, not for long. You were always the reasonable one, Lisa. You would tell me to calm down, to take a larger view. Madness and inhumanity rule this place. Whatever is keeping the electricity flowing is trying to trap me here. I need to shut it down again. And while surface level this is quite a sad note, but from a more obvious perspective, yes. Yes, the electricity is trying to keep you here. It's a fucking electric fence, dude. I do just want to say real quick, I know I'm not really talking about what's actually going on within the game itself, but that's mostly because all of the documents and notes come one after another. It makes it kind of hard to interject and just say what's actually going on. So I figured letting the gameplay show you what's going on as opposed to me talking about it like I did in the base game would be easier, because this game is significantly shorter than the actual base game, and because this one's being attached to the base game video, I don't want this portion to be an extra 2 hours longer because I'm going back and talking about what's actually happening during the game. It's already long enough, and a lot more of the lore here connects back to the lore of the base game, so I figured it'd be more important to talk about that. And speaking of which, here's another note. It would be so easy. I don't believe in it anymore. Getting the truth out. There is no truth. Only lies we've accepted too long to double back on. It's our children, Lisa. I would take the easy way out if it wasn't for the boys. Damn this place to hell. I'll suffer anything to get out of it. And you know, again, a very sad note. But from a more cynical point of view, you told her that you would take the easy way out if it wasn't for the boys. Not her or anything, not your wife, just the kids. Fuck her. We don't care about her. You know, if we didn't have kids, I would kill myself right now. I'm sorry to tell you this, Lisa, but you're not more important than the boys. Only the boys. Not you. Oh, oh, look, it's Wayland Park if he only had a wife and no kid. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm gonna get it together. Back inside, like the harder I try to escape, the deeper I get. Dead men aren't a surprise anymore. Suicides seem wise. Yeah, if only it weren't for those kids. If I only had a wife, I could kill myself. The kids, I just can't. Okay, I'm done. I'm sorry.
Give us to him. The man downstairs.
Kill the rats! He's here! Inside the walls! Kill him!
Dr. Ford, I conducted another interview with your patient Dennis this afternoon and have to agree with your suspicions. In the course of a 40-minute interview, I had a wide exposure to all four of Dennis's expressed personalities. As near as I could tell, two brothers, their father, and their grandfather. They seemed primarily concerned with some sort of life-threatening flood, though there was little consistency between this event having already happened or threatening imminent arrival. The clarity of his delusion and performative nature of his personality's expressions certainly suggests malingering. I admittedly fall into the Furstenberg camp of categorical skepticism of dissociative personality disorder, but Dennis's case seems clearly invented by an attention-seeking patient, more likely symptoms of gross narcissism and obsessive-compulsive disorder. Continuous shock therapy.
What do you think?
Sincerely, Dr. Wolfram.
Once we agree. He got away. The groom will have us.
And that right there was the man himself, Dennis. You can hear him talking to himself, or at least talking to the other voices in his head. From what it seems, he's just another variant here. But he does make mention to something, the groom, and we're about to find out who exactly that is right now. A man's body mutilated and bent to mimic or mock the moment of birth. The kind of thing a man cannot see without changing in some irreparable way. Lisa, I was with you when both our boys were born. It was until recently the most miraculous thing I had seen, completely outside of reasonable belief and yet somehow central to everything I've come to believe since. You always said I was too literal-minded, tried to turn everything into an if-then statement. Lately I've widened my horizons. How can the things I've seen here be? But I know the answer. Money, profit, things we made just because we could.
Darling. Did I frighten you? I'm awfully sorry, I didn't mean to. We've met before, haven't we? I know I've seen your face.
This right here is Eddie Gluskin. Yes, I know it's pronounced Gluskin, but I think Gluskin sounds funnier. I know everybody was screaming at me in the comments when I pronounced it Gluskin earlier, but again, I just think it's funnier. Leave me alone. And as he states, he has actually seen our face before.
Help me! Don't let them do this! Don't let them... You! I know you can stop this! You have to help me! something like that to yourself. Rather die than be with me. Than die.
From this little sequence, you actually get quite a bit of information about Eddie. While he's sorta, kinda, but not really chasing you, he starts singing the song, I Want a Girl. We also see writings on the wall such as this one that say a woman's work is never done. And we saw one earlier that says love makes a house a home. But one of the most significant things that he actually says is after we fell down the elevator shaft.
Rather die than be with me. Than die.
This gives us an idea that Eddie is either one of two things or both at the same time. One, he's an obsessed narcissist, saying, you would rather die than be with me, almost giving himself a grandiose pedestal like he's the best person in the world, which he clearly is, like who wouldn't want to date this guy? Or two, he's misogynistic in the way that he believes that he is owed everything from a woman, and despite the fact that we're not a woman, he seems very confused by that idea. And given what happens later, it doesn't really matter if we're a woman or not, because he will make us into one.
Even these, but when they look deeper, when anyone, the smell of my love's arbor, darling, can't hide from me. You make yourself a gift for me, a delicacy to be unwrapped and unwrapped again and savored. Here we go. I've been a little vulgar, and I want to say I'm sorry. I just... You know how a man gets when he wants to know a woman. But after the ceremony, I've made an honest woman of you. I promise I'll be a different man. I want a family, a legacy, to be the father I never had. I'll never let anything happen to our children. Not like... I have to wait here. I know you must be as eager as I am to consummate our love. But try to enjoy the anticipation. Here, darling. This will help you relax. Darling, I need you to try to bleed less. I know the fair sex often endure the same wounds with more suffering, but you really need to make an effort. No, I'm so sorry, darling. Love isn't for everybody. Hold still now, darling. All these unsightly hairs. Oh, silky smooth, like a little girl again. Now the more delicate bits.
No! No, don't! Please!
Oh, God! You've given up. You're ugly. You've given up. You know if you work straight enough.
Oh, God.
Bleed, please. You have amazing bone structure. Such soft skin. You're going to be beautiful. A woman has to suffer some things. It's not pleasant, I know. But just try to endure. For my sake. For the sake of our children. It won't take long. A few snips of the flesh here and here. Cut away everything vulgar. A soft place to welcome my seed. To grow our family. The incision will hurt. And the conception. And birthing is never easy. I'll make the cut fast. Just close your eyes and think.
Get back here!
Hi guys, past me here. I time traveled into the future to ask you one question. Do you see this? Do you know what this is? This is something that you have to record for a note. You want to know what didn't happen during this sequence? This note getting recorded. Future me decided that during his playthrough he was going to ignore this, run, and jump out this window. And only after he jumped out this window did he realize that he didn't do it. Look at him. Look at him pausing his game, panicking right now, hoping to God that this didn't save. And then Alt F4ing the game. He had an entire guide up and everything, and he still missed this. So from this point on, I will no longer take any of this past me slander that future me has been putting out there. Thank you for your time. Future me here. See, the advantage of being future me and being the editor at the same time is that I can do this. It's like nothing ever happened. Still intact. I'm here, Lisa. I'm still me. He tried to make me his bride. To cut me. Maybe I was wrong, telling the world would only draw it here. Should this place just die and fester here? I won't tell the world if it means spreading the infection. Let it die alone. Let it rot. You see, the thing is that I would say that this is probably the smartest course of action, like, genuinely. If something like this can spread to anybody and everybody who comes into contact with it, the wall rider, or any of the patients who are talking about the wall rider, this is quite a good idea. The only thing is, and we're skipping to the end of the game for this point, he still ends up doing it. He still tells the entire world about it. Like you actually had a good idea here and you just threw it all away. Like, I don't get it. It would be one thing entirely if you went to like a law organization or something like that, but he literally leaks it to a website that is called viralleaks.org. Like, way to be subtle about it at the very minimum. Good job, Waylon. I don't even fucking know. And just to clarify, it's not even about the fact that he leaked it. It's about the fact that he had a good idea about not leaking it to everybody and then still did it. Like I personally would have leaked it, but I'm assuming that a website called viralleaks.org isn't exactly a discreet site to have leaked it on. That seems like a really public website where it's just going to go out to everybody. And everybody's going to end up here. The exact thing that he didn't want. Like, fucking hell, Waylon. Therapy status. Lucid dreaming figures remain as murky as ever. Blueskin claims near constant control of his dream state, yet correspondence between his narrative and REM cycles. Highly arrhythmic REM and REM. Morphogenic engine activity plateaus at 90 ppm. Diagnostics. Heavy bronchial accumulation. The rashes associated with hormone therapy have receded and vanished since we stopped using latex tubing. Interview notes. Blueskin remains a frustrating interview subject. He's still trying to tell us what he thinks we want to hear, while studiously avoiding certain elements of the truth. His childhood remains an obvious fiction. He's claiming to have grown up in Leave It to Beaver, despite a traumatically violent ongoing sexual experience that is a matter of public and medical record. When I confronted him with the photographs his father and uncle took, he responded with a mixture of laughter and anger, and restraints were issued. He similarly refuses to discuss his victims, both categorically and specifically. When I showed him pictures of the women, he would not admit that they were dead or mutilated. He is claiming advancement in the morphogenic engine program that he has not yet achieved, said that he could clearly hear the voice of the wall rider just by closing his eyes. Clearly, he's still trying to curry the favor of his doctors. I won't speculate at what he expects to gain by it. Okay, so I do want to stop for a second to talk about one detail about this, because a lot of the documents like this, the therapy status ones, are usually stuff that you can take at face value. But this one, I got confused when it said, when I confronted him with the photographs his father and uncle took, he responded with a mixture of laughter and anger, and restraints were issued. Now, what confused me about this is I didn't know how to interpret this. I didn't know if it was saying that his father and uncle took pictures of him after the sexual abuse, meaning somebody else sexually abused him and they took photos of it, or if it meant that they sexually abused him and then took photos of it. Both are probably on the same level as far as how sick and demented they are. But I didn't know. And according to the Outlast wiki, it says, all that is known about Eddie Gluskin's early life is that he was sexually abused by his father and uncle who took photos of the incident. And I just wanted to clarify that in case anybody else was confused the same way that I was. So yes, his father and uncle abused him and then took photos of it afterwards. Just wanted to clear that up. Bodies hanging like wet laundry, like skinned rabbits, men mutilated, hunted, and murdered. The shortest distance between any 2 points separates violence and ruined lust. Whatever story he's telling himself, he's not making women to bear his children. He's making women to kill them. Lisa, I want you to burn this place and any evidence it ever existed to the ground. Destroy the Murkoff Corporation. Bury it in shame. Take away its money. Wipe it from history. This man thinks he's in love. He thinks the therapy made him better. Everything reeks of death and fear, piss and coppery blood, meat decomposing the game. Okay, so yes, you see the connection between the previous document and this note. He's making women not to bear his children, but to kill them. That was established, that he liked doing that. But no, Waylon, you do not get to get away with saying the same thing twice when you do this shit at the end. You do not get to say, Lisa, I want you to burn this place and any evidence that ever existed to the ground, destroy Murkoff, blah, 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 blah. You don't get to say that shit again and then send the evidence that this place existed to everybody. No, like now I'm just pissed. And just for the sake of validating my argument, here's all of the times that Waylon has changed his mind or backtracked on whether or not exposing Murkoff is the right or wrong idea here. Lisa, baby, I'm so sorry. I fucked up. I thought I was doing the right thing, but I fucked up bad. But I should have exposed what Murkoff is doing to the world. I should have shouted to anyone and everyone. I don't believe in it anymore. Getting the truth out. Maybe I was wrong. Telling the world would only draw it here. Should this place just die and fester here? I won't tell the world if it means spreading the infection. Let it die alone. Let it rot. It's not even just this either, but at the end of the game, the man who you're in the room with literally tells you that your wife, your family, everyone will become a target for Murkoff. You literally said that you wouldn't kill yourself just because your kids existed, but you're gonna make them targets? Yeah, whatever. Go fuck yourself, dude. Now, whether I'm justified or unjustified in my anger, I'll let you decide, but either way, we'll continue now.
One more. I tried, and I tried. You all betrayed me. You can hang like the rest of them. Heavier than you look. If this is you on the honeymoon, I hate to imagine our anniversary. Hold still. God damn it, what are you? Oh, damn it, darling. No, you need to behave. We could have been beautiful.
And this is what ends up happening to Eddie Gluskin in the end. Fuck this guy. He's dead. The amateur surgeon, father-to-be, husband, just got shredded and pulled from his belly. I'm trying not to laugh. Oh god, Lisa, I swear to you, I'm trying. Yeah, I bet it's so funny, dude. Just get out of the fucking asylum and expose or don't expose Markov. I don't even fucking know anymore. A chapel on fire in the distance. I didn't even know we had a church. Where's God when you need him? Okay, wait. How in the fucking world does Wayland Park not know that they have a church? Like, maybe he hasn't been to it, maybe he hasn't seen it, but he literally picked up a document that was talking about a priest preaching the word of God to the people at the asylum. Father Clark, far be it from me to lie to a man of God, so let me at least say that I will do my personal best to improve the safety of your working conditions. I and the rest of the staff truly appreciate everything you do for our patients, and if you feel threatened by anybody in particular, simply let us know, and we can either increase chemical restraints or administer a lobotomy or similar calming procedure. Don't underestimate the contribution your sermons offer our patients, especially considering the depth and necessary chaotic nature of hypnotherapy. Our patients need the bedrocks of God and family. Not all of our poor unfortunates have families to call upon, and so the burden and calling is yours. We are all of us relying on your faith and hard work. Dr. Newhouse, MD. He even saw a dude dressed as a priest and made a note about it. Somebody who looks as much like a priest as this place looks like an asylum, writing instructions on the wall, talking about God, tells me not to be afraid. How would you not take that information and conclude that even if you haven't seen it, there might be a church somewhere? Like, holy fuck, dude, are you stupid or something? I really cannot tell. You know, I'm starting to get more upset at Wayland than I was at Miles, but I really don't think that he deserves that. Miles Upshar's actions were way more egregious, so fucking whatever.
Let's just say he's dead.
Yeah. What kind of sick fuck would do this to somebody? He even took his damn pants.
Tell you one thing. I've seen more than enough dick and balls tonight to last me a life.
Corporate cops, mercenaries, private military contractors, whatever they call them now. They're as helpless as the rest of us. Need to get out. Escape. Dear sirs, the groundwork has been laid to ensure an uneventful egress for Rudolf Vernick from structural and financial systems at Mount Massive. His advanced age should alleviate any suspicion among contractors and employees, among whom he has cheerfully nicknamed the Crypt Keeper, and legally speaking, he died years ago. I understand patients 14306-8, 14279-1, and 14868-1 have already been scheduled for transit. We're all terribly excited at the obvious profit potential of the new project. My researchers have combed through Vernick's files and found no mention of the 3 lucid dreamers. I think we can safely assume Vernick was sufficiently distracted by the partial success of patient Billy Hope, along with his own infirmity, to be ignorant of the real discovery at hand. Even minimal exploitation of these resources is hard to overestimate. I only hope the new facility is sufficiently shielded to allow female staff, so I can see what comes with my own eyes. Respectfully, Helen Grant. Caution. Level triple black security protocols, including chemical restraint, physical restraint, and separate adaptive hyperbaric chambers are to be used at all times in transit. Chemical stimulation is highly recommended for all personnel within 500 meters of the patient. Attempts at communication should be assumed to be hallucinations and disregarded. Facial disfigurement should not be taken as a sign of lost acuity. They are physically blind, but not unseeing. Note: security clearances for Project Walrider will not apply to information regarding patients 14306-8, 14279-1, and 14868-1. New security clearances will be issued and appropriate protocol assigned.
Mr. Park. How the fuck are you still alive? Let's make a deal. Help me up, please. Fucking die! No one can know. No one.
Jeremy Blair, my supervisor's supervisor. A man who'd see me skinned, salted, and raped for a promotion and a few martinis. Injured. Dying if he's not already dead. I'm trying to feel sorry for him. Really I am. But there's no way in hell he's stopping me from getting out of this godforsaken place. I'm coming home, Lisa.
You press that button. There's no going back, Mr. Park. There's enough hard evidence in that video file to make a world of shit for our friends in Murkoff. You got out of Mount Massive alive, and we've done everything in our power to cover your tracks. But our enemies are twitching and malicious corporate paranoiacs with resources you're too moral to imagine. You won't be the only target. Anyone you care about, your wife, your child, there'll be nothing to Murkoff but ways to hurt you. I need you to understand the bridge you're crossing here. You will do irrevocable damage to the company. You might even get close to something like justice. But once you click upload, your life is over. Everyone you love is fucked. But it's the right thing to do. Is hurting Murkoff worth that much to you?
And with that, we've reached the end of Outlast Whistleblower. And the end of this video. I plan on posting videos for Outlast 2 and the Outlast trials, but I also want to post other videos in between because this video already took so much time to make. Most of the stuff on this channel is going to be horror related, so horror books, horror movies, horror games, stuff like that. So if that all sounds interesting to you and you want to help support the channel, subscribe, and I'll do my very best to put out more videos in the meantime. And with all of that out of the way, thank you so much for watching, and have a nice day.